3 steps forward, 3 steps back, 2 steps forward, 3 steps back. It was like all I could do was laugh, because it's just like, you know, I get all of these amazing answers. I get all this like miracle. There's a miracle medication out there that I am supposed to be able to take that is going to help so much, and I can't get it. It's been a roller coaster of a few weeks. The last video, yeah, that pretty much tells you how the couple months, couple years have been. Lots of struggling, and yeah, it's just been really rough. So today I had a follow-up with my cardiologist, and like the average wait time to actually see the cardiologist after your appointment time is normally like minimum of an hour. So I had to have x-rays done today of my abdomen to see how bad my feeding tube is flipped. I saw the x-rays afterwards. Yeah, it's flipped. Good times. So I went and had x-rays done at one health system, and then I had to drive another 40 minutes to go to the second health system. And so it was just a follow-up appointment for all the massive amounts of testing that I have had done in the last month or so. I'm gonna heat up soup so I can try to eat something. So the last time that I had a follow-up, hardly any of my testing and labs and stuff were back, and so it was kind of like a wasted appointment, and it was super frustrating, and he cut me off while we were talking, and it didn't go well at all. So I have since put in a request to actually be changed to cardiology at my main health system. I'm still wishy-washy about it, but I've put the request in. So I get there, and I didn't sit for maybe 2 minutes in the waiting room, and then they called me back, and you know, regular vital stuff and whatnot. So we go in the room, and then I had to make sure that all of my medication was correct, and I had to add Mestinon, which is the new GI med that I'm on, trying to keep stuff working. So we did that. My nurse/tech, she left and said that she had to go get an EKG machine because there wasn't one in the room that I was in. And she said that she'd be back in a few minutes, you know, as soon as one was available. So she left. I waited 5 minutes, something like that, and then somebody knocked on my door, so of course I'm assuming it's her, and one of the fellows came in, and it was a woman this time. I just like dealing with women better. I don't know, I like it way much more. So anyway, she asks some like pre-questions and writes them down so that they can compile all the information and give it to my cardiologist before he comes in and talks to me. They always seem bored. Literally, I've had them come in, and these are people that have been through college, they have been through medical school, they're in residency in whatever field that they want to be in, whether that be you know, dysautonomia or cardiology or whatever it is. They will come and sit down, and they will slouch in their chair. They look like they're doodling on their paper. It ain't good. Like, it always like just rubs me the wrong way. Especially for how long I have to travel to see these people, and how car sick I get having to see these people, And gosh darn, I want your full attention, and I don't want it to look like you have been on a bender for a week and a half. And I'm off my soapbox. So anyway, so she asked all the questions, and I filled her in on all of the GI stuff and the tube problems and what we're doing on that side, and the IV fluids and all that stuff. So we talked, chit-chatted, whatever. She leaves. Oh, and my tech tried to come back in the room while she was asking questions. Oh, man. My stomach hurts so bad with that tube in it. Oh. And I know I'm dropping weight again because that spot on my shoulder, like I can always tell when I'm dropping weight because it feels like my muscles are pulling off my shoulder. It really hurts. Okay, let me get this in the microwave. Hold on. And we're gonna cover it with paper towel. Okay, so she leaves, my tech comes back in, and I guess she got me set up to do the EKG like super quick, and it was interesting. I didn't have to lay down to do it. We ended up doing it in this like comfy recliner chair that they have, which was like super nice because it hurts really bad to lay flat on my back at this point because of all the GI problems and tube and blah 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 blah. I'm so out of breath. Okay, so she does the EKG. We were having trouble getting it to read. We were talking about stuff, so I was like moving around, and I knew that was the problem. So then we had to like stop talking so we could do the EKG, make sure it didn't come out super abnormal. Did the EKG, all that good stuff. We were actually talking about like piercings and tattoos, and she had her tongue done, and I was talking about all the ones that I have done, and it was super fun. Like, I enjoyed talking to her. I get to see her a lot. She's really sweet. Okay, so she takes all the stuff, and she was like, okay, you know, we'll get everything, you know, to your cardiologist, and he'll be in just a little bit. So an hour later, I've been there an hour and 40 minutes, and my mini man had his percussion concert for the year tonight. I'm not going to be late for that. Like, no matter what is going on, I am not being late for my kids' stuff. So, my medication, orange 3. Okay. Pause on our discussion. I have Allie taste buds. I don't know what makes Allie taste buds, but they really hurt. I have like 3 of them right on the tip of my tongue. Waited forever. Finally go to the door and open it up, and another one of the techs was standing there, and she was like, can I help you? And I was like, I've been here for blah 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 a long time. I said I can't be late for a concert tonight for my boy, and I said I'm trying to figure out where I am in the mix of things. I was like, because I really want to have my test results, but obviously I can't keep waiting forever and ever. And she was like, give me half a second and I'll go check. So I went back in my room for a minute, went back to the doorway to ask him, and then here comes my cardiologist with all the stuff. I swear he only comes to the patients that like are like angry that they've been waiting for so long. So anyway, so he comes in the door, and he was like, hi, so he goes, hi, Mrs. Spears, you know, so glad to see you, you know, like really looking forward to going over your test results with you, you know, please take a seat. First off, this is not ever how he greets me. It is always just like, have a seat, and then he just starts rattling stuff off like faster than I can even process. And then he's normally only in the room for like 15 or 20 seconds, and then he's already like hustling me out the door. It was like a different guy today. And I'm thinking, what in the world? Like, what happened? Like, why is it so different today? And he was like, I've got all of your test results back. So I had a Holter monitor and a loop recorder, Holter monitor for 24 hours, loop recorder for 30 days. That's rough. I was waiting on test results from a HIDA scan, from an EEG test, which measures brain waves to see if you're having seizures. And then I had an adrenaline test that I was waiting for. And he was like, so I'm going to go over all of your stuff, and then we are going to get to the nitty-gritty stuff. And I'm like, okay, like I really didn't expect anything from today. I expected the same old, you know, like, yes, you've got POTS. There's nothing else that we really need to deal with. You know, come back in a couple weeks and here's new whatever. So he goes, I want to start with your adrenaline testing and he goes, I was shocked by your adrenaline testing. And I'm thinking, okay, like, I don't know what I don't know. Like, I don't know if people are supposed to be high or low or in the middle, whatever. Like, I have no idea. And he goes, okay, the first time I met this guy, and he's proficient in EDS and POTS and has a colleague that does the MCAD portion of it and blah. And I remember talking to him the very first time, telling him I really thought that I had hyperadrenergic POTS. He rolls his eyes and he was like, everybody thinks they have hyperadrenergic POTS. And he said, there is the tiniest little speck of people that have POTS that actually have hyperadrenergic POTS. And he said, and you have to have laboratory evidence of it. You know, you can't just go off of, you know, willy-nilly, this is symptoms and whatever. And he was like, you know, like, 0.5% of POTS patients actually have diagnosed hyperadrenergic POTS. And this was all the first time that I met him. And so he's sitting there talking about my adrenaline testing, which I would have paid you money, was messed up because I had 3 IV sticks trying to do the test, and it was just, I felt so sick that day. It was bad. So I didn't think anything was going to come of it because I really thought that it was going to be bad test results. And he goes, anything, well, there's like 3 levels that you measure. It's like norepinephrine, epinephrine, and then something else that I don't remember. And he said the biggest number, which I think is the norepinephrine part, and it's like catecholamine, something, I don't know enough to be dangerous on this stuff. And he said anything above 1500 is considered extremely high adrenaline levels. And he said your test result was almost 1700. And I was like, oh, I was like, well, that's really high. And he goes, and the next number, anything over like 32 was considered extremely high, and mine was 37. And he said, so you are laboratory proven and diagnosed hyperadrenergic POTS. And I just kind of sat there like, I didn't even know what to say because he had shot me down so hardcore like 1.5 years ago. And he goes, you know, this explains why you're not sleeping. He said, this explains why you are blacking out when you get IVs. You know, and he goes, so you are very, very well documented with hyperadrenergic POTS now. And I'm like, okay, so what do we do about it? You know, and he said, you know, exercise and hydration and biofeedback and all of that stuff is still very, very important. He said, especially with this kind, because you're fighting 2 different like dysautonomia problems, and they squish together and then they like jumble all up, and then one makes one higher and then worse and then worse. And he said they just feed off of each other, which is why you're miserable all the time. And I was like, well, that makes sense. And he goes, there's also a pharmaceutical component to trying to give you symptom relief from it. And it's a medication called Aldomet, A-L-D-O-M-E-T. I will put it here. He said with people in hyperadrenergic POTS, this is like a miracle drug. He said you don't have to have ramp up in your system for weeks before you have benefit. It has been on the market since like the 50s, and it can make a huge difference. And he said the first time you take the medication, you should absolutely be able to tell the difference. And he said, and when you take a med, whatever pill, he said it should last 6 hours, and you should have relief for 6 hours. And then after 6 hours, he said all of your symptoms will come back: the adrenaline, brain fog, you know, postural problems, orthostatic tachycardia, all the stuff. And he said, so it is it really is considered a miracle med for people with your condition. And he said, and I don't use that term lightly. And I'm like, and my brain is just like going 90 to nothing, trying to like catch up. And he said, the problem with the medication, and I was like, here it is, you know, like there has to be a problem with it. He said, there's a shortage right now. And he said, so pharmacies are having a very hard time finding it. And he said, so we're going to send a prescription to your pharmacy. And he was like, you know, see if they can get it. You may have to do some calling around, blah, blah, blah. And then he said, with your other test results, he said the Holter and the loop, you know, showed the same stuff, heart murmur, tachycardia. I have PVCs and I skip beats and all that. And he said all of that was very, very consistent to what we did last year and a half. He said, so that's fine. He said your EEG is normal. And he said, so no seizures, which was super great because I was a little concerned about that. Because I have tremors and stuff, and it just kind of freaked me out, so that made me feel a lot better. He said my HIDA scan was abnormal, and he said, but it's in such a way, and with all of the rest of my GI problems and all of that crap, he said he said it's abnormal, it just is. He said, but we're going to consider that your baseline, and he said, and we'll go from there. You know, if I develop other problems and issues and whatnot, we can always redo the test and hoobie, but I've got so much on my plate right now, we're not going to mess with that at all, which is, again, really nice. And he said, so that's this piece. And he's like, now I want to talk about this piece. And I'm like, what piece? And I was like, that's all my testing. Like, what are we talking about? And he said 99% of people with hyperadrenergic POTS have MCAD, mast cell activation disorder. Your cells don't respond correctly to like an allergic reaction. So you're exposed to something, say like a mosquito bite, and your body, you know, sends things to that location to fix it, to dissipate the problem that's in your body. It reacts it and it makes you itchy and, you know, a little bit, you know, blah, 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 and you itched a little bit and then it goes away. And he was like, people with your condition, it all feeds on top of each other. And so, oh man. And he was like, have you ever seen anybody for it? And I said, well, I've seen the head of allergy immunology at my other health system, and I said I wasn't impressed. I said I have every symptom of it, unexplained rashes. So here's a picture, and this happened literally like 2 days ago, and I don't know what I touched, but it was like these 3 little dots showed up, and then my entire leg, it was like wildfire. It was incredibly hot to the touch. It was swollen. It was so itchy. I ended up having to take 2 Benadryl to get the reaction to stop. And he's like, there is no doubt that you have it. And he's like, we just need to get you to the right doctor. So they are going to refer me to an MCAD specialist that is also aware of EDS and the POTS and all that stuff. And so he said, so that's the other component. And he's like, we need to try to get all of this kind of under control. And he said, and maybe it'll even help some of your GI distress. And I was like, dude, anything that will help my GI distress would be amazing at this point. And then we talked about IV fluids, and he gave me another prescription for that. And there's kind of this balance thing that we're trying to find with all the meds and the IV fluids. And told him that I'm being put into palliative care for my big health system. And he was like, you know, it's patients like you, it's very hard for a regular primary to understand everything that you're dealing with. And he was like, you know, hopefully you'll have a heck of a lot better luck, you know, getting help and symptom relief and whatnot. And I was like, it's that. I said, my quality of life has taken such a nosedive. And I was like, I feel like the farther away I get from it, the more out of reach it is, that I'm going to have a harder and harder time kind of reeling it all back in, which is scary, you know, like I'm 39, like I want to have like the next 50, 60 years to like kick ass and take names, and all of this is very, 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 very hard to process. And so anyways, so the med was sent to my pharmacy. My pharmacy called me. And so they either call me if they can't find a medication or if the medication is ridiculously expensive. And so one of my favorite pharmacists called, and she was like, okay, I've got a new one for you. And I'm like, okay. I was like, can't find it, or too expensive. And she was like, can't find it. And they called all of their in-network pharmacies. They had all of them call all of their suppliers to see if they could get it in. And they're being told that it is in such a shortage that they don't believe they're actually going to be able to get it in stock until sometime in 2020. It is May 7th today. May 7th, 2020. 3 steps forward, 3 steps back. 2 steps forward, 3 steps back. It was like all I could do was laugh, because it's just like, you know, I get all of these amazing answers. I get all this like miracle. There's a miracle medication out there that I am supposed to be able to take that is going to help so much, and I can't get it. So anyways, so the hunt starts tomorrow to see if I can find it somewhere else or through my mail order pharmacy or whatever. So anyways, it has been a crazy, crazy day. I did make it to the concert on time. It was really awesome. It's my favorite one of the year. There was no way I was gonna miss it. So here's me and my boy. Oh my gosh, he's awesome, and he did great, and he had like 2 solos through part of the songs, and it was just, oh my gosh, I love going to all of his stuff. It's super neat. So that is my day, and it has been a crazy day. I'm going to try to eat some soup. I don't know how it's gonna work yet because it's been a really bad food day. I've only had like a little bitty fruit piece. It's just been really bad. So cross my fingers. Oh, it's been a long day. I'm gonna go. Love you guys. I'll talk to you later. Bye.